Okay, I think we're live. So we're gonna just leave off where we start off where we left off last time. Last time where I mean yesterday. I don't know how long this series is gonna be. I have my timer for 30 minutes on. Oh yeah, before I continue, I just got a decent setup today. I changed the camera. I hope it doesn't look as bad as tomorrow. Yep, let's start. Secondly, the advantage which is gained by saving the time is time commonly lost in passing from one sort of work to other is much greater than we should at first view be apt to imagine it. It is impossible to pass very quickly from one kind of work to another that is carried on in a different place and with quite different tools. A country weaver who cultivates a small farm must lose a good deal of time in passing from his loom to the field and from the field to his loom. When the two trades can be carried out on the same workhouse, the loss of time is not so doubt much less. It is even in this case, however, very considerable. A man commonly saunters a little in tuning his hand from one sort of employment to the other. When the first begins the new work, he seldom very keen and hearty. His mind, as they say, does not go in it, and for some time he rather trifles than applies to good purpose. The habit of sauntering and of indolent, careless application, which is naturally or rather necessarily acquired by every country workman who is obliged to change his work and his tools every half hour and apply his hand in 20 different ways almost every day of his life, renders him almost always slothful and lazy and incapable of any vigorous application even on the most pressing occasions. Independent, therefore, of his deficiency in point of dexterity, this cause along must always reduce considerably the quality of work which he is capable of performing. Thirdly and lastly, everybody must be sensible how much labor is facilitated and abridged by the application of proper machinery. It is unnecessary to give any example. I shall only observe, therefore, that the intention of all those machines by which labor is so much facilitated and abridged seems to have been originally owing to the division of labor. Men are much more likely to discover easier and readier methods of attaining any object when the whole attention of their minds is directed towards that single job when it is dissipated among a great variety of things. But in consequence of the division of labor, the whole of every man's attention comes naturally to be directed towards some one very simple object. It is naturally to be expected, therefore, that some one or other of those who are employed in each particular branch of labor should soon find out easier and readier methods of performing their own particular work, whether the nature of it admits of such improvement. A great part of the machines made use of in those manufacturers in which labor is most subdivided were originally the inventions of common workmen who bring each of them employed who being each of them employed in some very simple orientation naturally turned their thoughts towards finding out easier and readier methods of performing it. Excuse me. Whoever has been much accustomed to visit such manufacturers must frequently have been shown very pretty machines which were the invention of such workmen in order to facilitate and quicken their particular part of the work. In the first fire engines, a boy was constantly employed to open and shut alternately the communication between the boiler and the cylinder, according as the piston either ascended or descended. One of those boys who loved to play with his companions observed that by tying a string from the handle of the valve which opened the communication to another part of the machine, the valve would open and shut without his assistance at liberty to divert himself with his playful fellows. One of the greatest improvements that has been made upon this machine since it was first invented in the manner of this discovery of a boy who wanted to save his own labor. All the improvements to machinery, however, have by no means been the inventions of those who had occasions to use the machines. Many improvements have been made by the ingenuity of the makers of the machines. When to make them, they became the business of a peculiar trade, and some by those who are called philosophers or men of speculation, whose trade is not to do anything but to observe everything, and who upon that account are often capable of combining together the powers of the most distant and dissimilar objects. In the progress of society, philosophy or speculation becomes, like every other employment, the principal or sole trade and occupation of a particular class of citizens. like like every other employment too, it is subdivided into a great number of different branches, each of which affords occupation to as a peculiar tribe or class of philosophers. And this subdivision of employment in philosophy, as well as in every other business, improves dexterity and saves time. Each individual becomes more expert in his own particular branch. More work is done upon the whole, and the quantity of science is considerably increased by it. It is it is the great multiplication of these productions of all different arts in consequence of the division of labor with occasions in a well governed society that universal opulence which extends itself to the lower ranks of the people. Every workman has a great quantity of his own work to dispose of beyond what he himself has occasion for, and every other workman being exactly in the same situation, he is enabled to exchange a great quantity of his own goods for a greater quantity, or what comes to the same thing, for the price of a great quantity of theirs. He supplies them abundantly with what they have occasion for, and they accommodate him as with amply with what he has occasions for, and general plenty diffuses itself through all the different ranks of the society. Observe the accommodation of most common artificer or day laborer in a civilized and thriving country, and you will perceive that the number of people of whose industry a part, though but a smaller part, has been employed in procuring him this accommodation exceeds the computation. The woolen coat, for example, which covers the day laborer, as coarse and rough as it may appear, it is the producer of the joint labor of a great multitude of workmen. The shepherd, the sorter, the wool and the wool comber, or the crader, the dryer, the scriber, the scribbler, the spinner, the weaver, the fuller, the dresser, with many others, must all join different arts in order to complete even this homely production. How many merchants and carriers, besides, must have been employed in transporting these materials from some of those workmen to others who often live in a very distant part of the country? How much commerce and navigation in particular, how many shipbuilders, sailors, sailmakers, rope makers must have been employed in order to bring together the different drugs made use of by the dyer, which often come from the remotest corners of the world. What a variety of labor, too, is necessary in order to produce the tools of the meanest of those workmen, to say nothing of such complicated machines as the ship of the sailor, the mill of the fuller, or even the loom of the weaver. Let us consider only with a variety of labor. Let us consider only what a variety of labor is requisite, or what variety of labor is requisite in order to form that very simple machine, the shears with which the shepherd clips the wool, the miner, the builder of the furnace for smelting the ore, the seller of timber, the burner of charcoal to be made use of in the smelting house, the brickmaker, the bricklayer, the workmen who attend the furnace, the millwright, the forger, the smith, all must all of them join their different arts in order to produce them. Were 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 we to examine in the same were we to examine in the same manner all the different parts of his dress and household furniture, the coarse linen shirt which he wears next to his skin, the shoes which cover his feet, the bed which he lies on, and the different parts which compose it, the kitchen grate at which he prepares his victuals. What does this mean?
Victual. Victual.
Viral. Food, okay, viral. The coals which he makes use of for that purpose, dug from the bowels of the earth and brought to him perhaps by a long sea and long land carriage, all other utensils of his kitchen, all the furniture of his table, the knives, the forks, the earthen and the pewter plates upon which he serves and divides his visuals, the different hands employed in preparing his bread and his beer, the glass window which he lets in heat and the light that keeps out the wind and the rain, with the knowledge of the arts requisites, with all the knowledge of an art requisite for preparing that beautiful and happy invention. Without those, northern parts of the world could scarce have afforded a very comfortable habitation, together with the tools of all different workmen employed in producing those different conveniences. If we examine, I say, all these things and consider what variety of labor is employed about each of them, we shall be sensible that without the assistance and cooperation of many thousands, the very meanest person in a civilized country could not be provided, even according to what we very falsely imagine, the easy and simple manner in which he is commonly accommodated, compared indeed with the most extravagant luxury of the great. His accommodation must no doubt appear to be extremely simple and easy, and yet it may be true, perhaps, that the accommodation of a European prince does not always so much exceed that of an industrious and frugal person, as the accommodation of the latter exceeds that of many of an African king, the absolute master of the lives and liberties of 10,000 naked savages. Chapter 2 of the principle which gives occasion to the division of labor. Okay, let's just stop here. What was chapter 1? Chapter 1 was on the division of labor, and chapter 2, I think I'll stop here for today, man. Not even 15 minutes, but this was hectic. I'll read this chapter all at once tomorrow. Of the principle which gives occasion to division of labor. Okay, basically, what's the reason labor is divided? I mean, didn't he just explain some of that by saying that people get bored? Sorry, that someone won't be able to do it at well. Okay, there are no chapters. Anyway, guys, you know where to see this again.